Hey there, welcome to the channel. Or if you're new here, I'm so glad you joined us today. Imagine a world where standing up for what's right could cost you everything. Your safety, your home, even your life. Now picture a man who faced that choice every day, not just for himself, but for his family, his children, and millions he'd never meet. That man was Martin Luther King Jr. today. We're diving into his extraordinary life, not just as a leader who changed history, but as a father who taught his kids a timeless lesson. Stand for justice, no matter the odds. This isn't just a story about the past. It's a story about us, parents, mentors, everyday people trying to raise kids in a world that feels complicated, divided, sometimes unfair. If you've ever wondered how to teach your children to do what's right, to find courage when it's hard, or to keep hope alive in tough times, this is for you. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's explore what Martin Luther King Jr. passed down to his kids and what we can learn from him today. By the end, you'll walk away with ideas to inspire the next generation, starting right in your own home. Let's step back to Atlanta, Georgia, in the 1950s. The United States is a nation wrestling with its soul. Segregation laws keep Black Americans from equal schools, jobs, even water fountains. Discrimination isn't just a policy. It's a way of life, enforced by fear, violence, and silence. Into this world steps Martin Luther King Jr., a young pastor with a big dream, a country where people are judged not by their skin, but by their character. He's not yet the icon we know. No statues, no holiday, just a man in his 20s with fire in his heart and a family by his side. Martin wasn't alone in this fight. He had Coretta, his wife, a brilliant activist in her own right, and her 4 children, Yolanda, Martin III, Dexter, and Bernice, born between 1955 and 1963. They grew up in a home where love was abundant, but so was danger. Hate mail piled up. Phone threats came at all hours. Their house was bombed when Yolanda was just a baby. Most parents would shield their kids from that kind of world, but Martin and Coretta didn't. They believed their children needed to understand the struggle, not to fear it, but to face it with purpose. What did Martin teach his kids in those moments? He taught them to stand for justice, not just when it's easy, not just when it's safe, but always. Justice for Martin wasn't an abstract idea. It was a way of living, a commitment to fairness, equality, and love, even in the face of hate. He didn't sit his kids down for long lectures. He showed them, day by day, through his actions, his words, his unshakable hope. And that's what makes his story so powerful for us today. As parents, we're not just raising kids. We're raising people who'll shape the future. Martin's life gives us a roadmap for how to do that, starting with lessons we can apply right now. So, why does a story from the civil rights movement matter to us, parents in places like Chicago, Calgary, or Cardiff? Because the world hasn't stopped needing justice. Maybe it's not segregation laws anymore, but we see unfairness every day, inequality, prejudice, systems that leave people behind. As parents, we're on the front lines, guiding our kids through a world that's noisy with opinions, heavy with challenges, and sometimes light on hope. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to think, what can I do? I'm just one person. But Martin was one person, too. And he showed us that one person's courage, one family's values, can ripple out to change millions of lives. Let me tell you about a mom I heard about in Toronto, raising her teenage daughter alone. Her name's Lisa, and she works 2 jobs to keep things afloat. A couple of years ago, her daughter Aisha came home upset. Kids at school were picking on a classmate for being different, and Aisha didn't know what to do. Lisa could have brushed it off, told her to stay out of it. Instead, she sat Aisha down and shared a story about a time she stood up to a bully at work, even though it scared her. They talked about what fairness means, why it matters to speak up. Aisha went back to school and started defending that classmate. even got others to join her. Today, she's leading a peer group to make her school kinder. Lisa didn't have a megaphone or a movement. She had a moment, and she used it to teach her daughter to stand for justice. Martin's life gives us 3 big lessons for raising kids like that. Kids who will stand up, speak out, and keep going, even when it's hard. Let's dig into those, because they're not just history. They're tools we can use today in our homes, right where we are. First, it's about showing what's right, not just saying it. Martin didn't just tell his kids that justice matters. He lived it. He marched in Montgomery when buses were segregated, led boycotts, went to jail 28 times, by the way, for breaking unjust laws. But he didn't do it with anger. He preached nonviolence, love, even for those who hated him. His kids saw that. Yolanda, his oldest, once asked why he kept going when people were so mean. He told her, "We don't fight hate with hate. We fight with love because love is stronger." That wasn't just a speech. It was how he lived every day in front of his family. As parents, we got that same power. Our kids watch us more than they listen to us. What do they see? Do they see us treating people fairly, even when it's inconvenient? Standing up when something's wrong, even if it's small? I remember a dad in my neighborhood, Mike, who runs a hardware store. One day, a customer was rude to his cashier, a young guy with a disability. Mike could have ignored it. Business is business, right? Instead, he calmly stepped in, defended his employee, and asked the customer to leave. His son was there watching. Later, that boy told me, "I want to be like my dad, fair, no matter what." That's the kind of lesson Martin gave his kids, not with words, but with choices. Here's something you can try. Think about one value you want your kids to carry, like fairness, kindness, or courage. Then, live it out this week in a way they'll notice. Maybe it's helping a neighbor who's struggling or calling out a mean comment at work. Don't make a big deal of it. Just do it and let your kids see. You can even talk about it later casually, like, "I didn't like how that person was treated, so I spoke up." It plants a seed, just like Martin did with his kids. Showing them justice isn't just a word. It's what you do. The second lesson is about courage. Standing for justice even when it's scary. Martin's life was full of fear. He got death threats daily. His kids knew their dad might not come home. But he kept going because he believed the cause was bigger than his fear. He once said, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." He taught his kids that standing up doesn't mean you're never afraid. It means you act anyway, because it's right. For his children, that lesson hit home in real ways. Bernice, his youngest, was just 5 when her dad was assassinated in 1968. Years later, she shared how he'd talked to them about fear, telling them it's okay to be scared, but not to let it stop you. He'd say, "If you see something wrong, speak up, even if your voice shakes." That wasn't just advice. It was a gift, preparing them for a world that wouldn't always be kind. We face our own fears as parents, don't we? Maybe it's worrying our kids will get hurt if they stand out, or wondering if we'll mess up trying to teach them what's right. But courage doesn't have to be loud. It can be quiet, steady, like the mom I met in Ohio, Sarah, who noticed her son was struggling with bullying at school. He was being teased for his clothes, and it was crushing him. Sarah didn't march into the principal's office or post a rant online. She sat with him, helped him write a letter to his teacher about what was happening, and practiced what to say to the bullies. Calmly, firmly. That took guts, because she was scared he'd face worse. But he didn't. The bullying eased, and her son learned he could stand up for himself. That's courage, the kind Martin modeled for his kids. Want to try it? Pick one thing this week where you can show courage for justice. Maybe it's talking to your kid's school about a fairness issue, like unequal treatment in class, or speaking up when you hear a biased comment at the grocery store. It doesn't have to be a big fight, just a step like saying, "That's not okay, and here's why." Your kids will see it, and they'll learn that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about doing what's right, even when your heart's racing. The third lesson is hope. Teaching our kids that justice is worth fighting for, because change is possible. Martin's dream wasn't just a speech. It was a belief that the world could be better, even when it looked hopeless. He faced setbacks, arrests, violence, laws that wouldn't budge. But he kept going because he trusted that love and fairness would win. He shared that hope with his kids, not as a fairy tale, but as a truth they could hold on to. Dexter, his son, once said his dad taught him that even when things are dark, you keep working because the light's coming. That hope wasn't blind. Martin knew change took work, marches, speeches, sacrifice, but he showed his kids it was worth it. In 1963, when Yolanda and Martin III watched their dad lead the March on Washington, they saw 250,000 people, black, white, young, old, standing together. They heard him say, "I have a dream," and they saw what hope could do: bring people closer, make the impossible feel real. Hope's what keeps us going as parents, isn't it? We want our kids to believe the world could be better, even when they see unfairness. Maybe at school, where some kids get left out, or online, where hate spreads fast. I'll never forget a story from a friend in London, a dad named James. His teenage daughter, Maya, was upset about climate change, feeling like nothing she did mattered. James didn't have all the answers, but he took her to a local cleanup event, picking up trash in their park. It was small, but Maya saw people caring, working together. She started her own eco club at school, and James told me, "She found hope, and I learned from her." That's the kind of spark Martin gave his kids, a belief that justice is possible if you keep at it. Here's a way to bring that home. Do something hopeful with your kids this week. It could be simple, like volunteering at a food bank together, or talking about a cause they care about. Maybe fairness in sports or helping homeless folks in your town. Ask them, "What's one thing we could do to make this better?" Then do it. Even if it's small, like writing a letter to your city council or donating old clothes. It shows them change isn't just a dream. It's something you build, step by step, just like Martin taught his kids. So, what would Martin say to our kids today if he could sit down with them? I imagine him leaning in, his voice steady and kind, saying something like, "Stand for justice. Don't wait for it to be easy or safe. Speak up when you see wrong. Love even when it's hard. And never stop believing you can make a difference. You're enough right now to change the world." And to us, the parents, his message is just as clear. Your influence matters. You don't need a podium or a movement to teach justice. You're doing it every time you show fairness, act with courage, or share hope. Martin wasn't perfect. He was human, like us. He worried about his kids, doubted himself sometimes. But he kept going because he knew his family was part of something bigger, a fight for a world where everyone belongs. How do we make this real in our lives? Let's get practical with a few steps you can start today. First, model fairness. Pick one moment this week to show your kids what justice looks like. Maybe calling out unfair treatment at work or helping someone who's being ignored. Let them see it, talk about it after. Second, practice courage. Find one place where you're scared to speak up, maybe a family issue like favoritism or something in your community like a bias rule. Take a small step like asking a question or sharing your thoughts calmly. Your kids will notice. Third, build hope. Do one thing with your family that feels like progress. Plant a tree, join a local cause, or just talk about what a fairer world could look like. Make it real, make it theirs. These steps aren't flashy, but they're powerful. They're how we raise kids who'll stand up like Martin's did. Yolanda became an activist. Martin III carried on his dad's work. Dexter fought for equality. Bernice became a minister. all because their father showed them justice wasn't just a dream, but a choice. Our kids can do that too, because we're teaching them every day in the little moments that add up. Martin's life was cut short. He was killed at 39, leaving his kids to grow up without him. But his lessons didn't die. They lived in his children, in the millions he inspired, and they can live in us. We're not just parents. We're builders of a world where fairness wins, where courage matters, where hope doesn't quit. Every time we choose to act justly, to stand firm, to lift our kids up, we're carrying Martin's dream forward. So, here's my challenge to you. Don't let this story just be a 15-minute break. Let it be a beginning. This week, take one lesson from Martin's life and make it yours. Maybe it's having that talk with your kids about what's fair and why it matters. Maybe it's facing a fear, speaking up where you've been quiet. Or maybe it's showing them hope, doing something together that says the world can be better. Whatever it is, do it with purpose, because you're not just raising kids, you're raising leaders. If this story touched you, I'd love for you to share it. Hit that share button and send this to a friend, a parent, anyone who needs a reminder of what one family can do. And don't forget to subscribe. We're telling more stories like this, stories that push us to live with heart and stand for what's right. Drop a comment below. What's one way you're going to teach justice this week? I can't wait to hear from you.